Very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, thank you all for being here today. Mr. Hookham, in your testimony, you discussed the great potential for additional development of pumped storage hydroelectric generation on pages 6 and 7. In particular, you note opportunities for these facilities at abandoned mine sites. Representing a district in coal country in Southwest Virginia, this is welcome news. And so we're looking for ways that we can promote economic development in our communities and help out, particularly when we can reuse some of our abandoned mine locations. In fact, the Virginia Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy had put forward such a proposal for the Department of Energy's Hydro Next grant, which funds innovative projects such as this. In particular, the sites that are being considered in Southwest Virginia are especially attractive since they use clean, non-acidic water for use in the system. While they were not chosen for this round of grants, I am hopeful that DOE and other agencies will see the importance of supporting these types of projects. So here's my question to you, and others may want to jump in. Can you expand on what you see as the potential for pumped storage hydro, particularly for abandoned mine sites, and discuss what regulatory barriers you think we need to address to streamline these sorts of projects?
So we're always looking to take advantage of what we call brownfield sites, sites that were used for something else we can reuse for a better use. So like landfills with solar caps makes perfect sense to us. Soils that we can use and cap over and protect the environment at the same time generate electricity. A mine site's a classic example where we can create vertical head, where we've got an opportunity to use a pool that potentially is underground, contained, not contaminating groundwater with a good, clean source of water, and then be able to pump that back up and reuse that power on both sides. It makes a total amount of sense, particularly where we can align that with demand and where the grid, the infrastructure supports it. So in an opportunity where there's a mine site where we have power lines and everything else aligned, I think we need to really take a close look at those.
Regulatory burdens or barriers that we may need to move aside?
I would say it's the old first of a kind mindset. We have to be careful what we're doing. So environmentally, we have to look and see if there's any impacts because we don't have a lot of those investments right now. So I think we have to do a little homework. We have to do that pre-screen to make sure it's a viable approach. But I think it should be done right away. Part of this research mindset we need to take on.
Okay. Anybody else want to touch on that subject?
One thing that I think, again, looking at the perspective of the energy landscape, a lot has been said today about, if an investor looks at a project like this, they have to look at what are the other alternatives. To be honest, we've been somewhat surprised that there hasn't been more interest in pumped storage, given the need for grid regulation, et cetera. However, it needs to be said that if you're an investor looking at other storage technologies that are being developed right now, do you want to spend $1 billion on a pumped storage project that could easily be leapfrogged by some new battery storage technology that's in the near future? I think that's the question. And we're, in terms of pumped storage, we think it's possible to site them correctly, but I think you need to acknowledge the reality that there are other technologies that are being developed that may be better answers.
And then yes, Ms.
If I can chime in on that, we are developing a project in the state of Oregon, which is a sizable pumped storage project. The challenge on pumped storage has been on the market side, on the commercial side, which is that, the conventional wisdom is that you can arbitrage on-peak and off-peak power. In an environment of very depressed prices, that's very difficult, and the capital costs of pumped storage are very high because they tend to be sizable projects. And so what we'd like to see is movement on the market side. How do you pay for pumped storage in recognition of all the grid benefits that it gets, not just the generation?
I appreciate that, and then we had some conversation earlier about the length of time in getting these projects approved, and we do need to cut that. I have two dams proposed already in my district for some small dams, small projects, but it's taken a long time to get everything done, and we need more time to do it. I also should bring up that I've got a little bill coming in because a lot of these larger projects were sold to the public as you'll also have recreational facilities, and yet FERC has been very aggressive in some of our lakes in our areas in telling the property owners on the sides of the lakes what they can and cannot do. I do not know the laws of other states, but as a trained Virginia lawyer, although like my friend Mr. Barton, I'm no longer practicing, but I think there are also some taking issues. But one of the things I think we need to work on is making sure that FERC considers that usage and considers the property owners on the sides of the lakes as well. My time is up, so I'm going to have to yield back, but we'll keep that in mind. Thank you so much for your time today, and I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Gentleman yields back. The chair would recognize the senior